of all the ones. Is that crazy? I mean, could there possibly be a source of one? I mean, one is just a number. No, one is not a number. All the numbers are measures of one. One is the measure of number. Just like that's a model, that's a measure of all the copies. And here's where we go in our culture. You see, our culture wants to say that as you proceed away from sense experience, this is our culture speaking now, right? As you proceed away from sense experience, it gets more and more theoretical, and another word for it is abstract. What that means is that you strip away from it its vitality and its life. Right, and therefore it is less real. And this is our teaching. This comes from English philosophers and people like that. The Greek world is it's the same thing except for one difference. It goes the other way around. They switch them around. That's all. Same thing. Just switch them around. This has the higher vitality, source of life, meaning. This, the copies, more sterile. Interesting though, but still, as you proceed further up and up, the more profound, the more interesting, the more exciting, more meaningful life is. Right? David Hume and Locke and all of these other people, they want to argue this way because they are in defense of something called a strange beast called common sense. And we're going to talk about that one day because the crowning of common sense and perpetuating the idea that the highest expression of the human mind is to produce common sense theories, common sense views, is what finally comes down to be reducing everything to its bottom line. It is, same thing. See, there isn't any meaning in life.
That's reductionism.
Yeah, reductionism. Yeah. 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 So what is our real task then? See, there are two tasks. One is the contemplative side should be, all right, you should become more interested in yourself. That naturally brings about a contemplative activity. You have to find out about yourself. And you have to look at this in its purest possible way. For any time you think it can serve any of these, you slipped into limitation. And I have a friend who I recently talked to, who's a master of he's a master of 4 or 5 religions, having lived them. Christianity, worked his way up in the system. Islamic thought, Buddhism, Shivaism. I mean, he worked through all of these systems. There's only one tragic flaw, you see. He wanted to use it inwardly for a certain purpose. And if it didn't meet that purpose, he became disenfranchised with it. If it didn't allow him to function in a certain way, it no longer engaged him seriously. And therefore he didn't see any advantage to each of them, even though he worked very well and was a master of each of these. And so he moved from one to the other. You see, he's somehow going to have to come back and say to himself that this need to turn it, to have it serve us. See, that's what he wants. He wants the highest to serve him. Good luck. Right? Good luck. We'd say, hey, good luck. If you can do it, let us know. But it may be you're going to be nothing but tears and disaster in your life. And so, to put a happy ending to the story, he is beginning to turn around and say, well, maybe I do have a problem. And most interesting, you know what one of the problems turns out to be, is that behind it all he has this great fear of death. Now, he doesn't have a fear of death, of course. What he does have is he has a fearful idea of death. Right? You can't have a fear of death. It's impossible to have a fear of death unless you're extremely wise. Why? Because you'd have to know what it is, right? You have to drop dead, experience it, come back and say, hey, I know all about death, experienced it. Pretty fearful, let me tell you that, right? Agree? Yeah. Take a weekend there, come back and say, hey, you know what, I've been there. I'm glad I left it. But you see, he has a terrible fear. And the terrible fear is a certain fear of an idea of death, which is why he wants all of these things to overcome it, rather than discover the roots of why he believes this fearsome idea of death. And if he can get rid of that, then he won't need it to serve, and therefore he may be then free to pursue his philosophical journey. This side of turning to look at what holds us back or restricts our adventure, our spiritual adventure, of course, goes by the Platonic name of philosophical midwifery. Now, you see, he's pregnant with an idea. He has an idea in his mind. Right? He has an idea. Didn't know it was there, by the way. All right. And what he needs is to have the root of that idea come out, pull it out, because he's pregnant with it. He needs someone to help him deliver him of that idea. That is, so that it can then be visible, so he can then see it, and then he can judge it, and he can see its origin and how he came to believe it, right? And how he came to believe it. This last step is the most central one. That's the most central one. Because when you get the origin, you get the conditions. When you get the conditions for the belief, then you have to discover how he came to believe it. And once he recognizes that those conditions no longer are significant, he can drop the belief and he's free of that. That no longer is an inhibiting idea towards his own progress. What's that called? Philosophical midwife. Socrates calls himself a philosophical midwife because that was his art. That's what he did. He waited and he saw people that were pregnant, not with babies, right, but pregnant with ideas, and he knew exactly when it was a good time to deliver of them, or to bring them on early, or to abort them. All the language of midwifery is in the philosophical side as an analogy to it, and therefore in this whole pursuit, as I stated it here, what is needed is a twofold training. One is a natural contemplation of the divine, and the other is to being attentive to these insidious ideas. Why are they insidious? Because we're not aware of what shapes our vision. That's the problem. We have to find out what distorts it and shapes it. So, thank you. If there's any more questions, I'll have some fun with some questions. Thank you for coming. Enjoyed it. Good.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh,